This is Brent for Leather, and you're watching Cast in the Act. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of Cast in the Act. I'm Brent for Leather, and I got to get used to broadcasting solo because a lot of these episodes are going to be solo. And while I've got extensive radio experience several years ago on a local public radio station doing a metal show called The Root of All Evil, that's obviously no video. So staring into the camera and talking all the time is not something that I'm super coherent with yet. I usually have a guest on, or I've done other shows in the past where I'm talking to someone and such. So I got to get a little used to it. So you got to bear with me for a few episodes. I bought a little mini tripod. I'm going to set right in front of my monitor. I feel it'll make it a little easier. But anyway, I'm Brent for Leather. Thanks for tuning in. Last week was a blast, man. I had Tony on, great storyteller, and was there, back in 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, and so on, and telling great stories and talking about how the new wave of British heavy metal kind of impacted the Bay Area thrash scene and kind of how he fell into it and so on and so forth. So this time around, I wanted to do more of an introduction episode, which I probably should have done first, but the opportunity to have Tony on was just too good to pass up for that first episode. That's something he and I had been talking about for a little while. And so I want to do an introduction episode where I kind of explain who I am, why I'm doing this, and kind of why I think all of you should join me on this journey, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun for all of us. So first and foremost, I'm a massive metal fan. I've been into metal now for give or take 26 years. I got in around 99. When I was in high school, I just started 9th grade, and I'd moved to a new neighborhood, same school system, different neighborhood. And I sat down on the bus beside this other kid, and he asked me what I was listening to. And my Discman rather at the time, I was listening to a bunch of random 90s alternative, grunge, stuff like that. And he told me that if I was going to sit on his bus and live in his neighborhood, I was not going to listen to that. And so he came back the next day with some homework and gave me 2 CDs, which forever changed my life. The first one was Megadeth, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. And the second one was Merciful Fate 9. Not necessarily the first albums that I would give someone first getting into metal, but probably not even the first albums from those respective bands that I would give someone. I love both albums immensely. Killing Is My Business is an absolute classic. 9 is vastly underrated. But if I had to pick between, different albums from those bands that I probably would have done first, the most accessible Megadeth for someone like me at that time probably would have been like Euthanasia, maybe Rust in Peace. So I probably would have picked that, maybe Cryptic Writings, somewhere in there. And then for Merciful Fate, they don't really have anything that is accessible to a non-metalhead. I probably would have picked Melissa or Don't Break the Oath, but it is what it is. Those 2 albums hit me like a freight train. I remember listening to the Megadeth one first, and never had I heard anything like that before. Growing up in the 90s, you, of course, you know who Metallica is. You hear the Black Album. I came from... like when I was first getting into music and stuff like that, I was into like Rush and AC/DC, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and then I kind of branched out REM and stuff. I'm originally from Athens, Georgia, so liking REM at a point in time in my life was a requirement, it seems. Driving and Crying, who was from Atlanta, and such. So going from those and being 15, no, I think I was 14 then. about to turn 15 or 15 about to turn 16, one of the two. I think I was 14 about to turn 15. My birthday's in November. Having never heard anything like that before and just getting thrown into it, it just completely jarred me. And I remember the Megadeth. I'm sitting there listening to it. I was like, man, I don't know what this is, but this is interesting. I've never heard guitar work this intricate and stuff like that. And then I put on Merciful Fate, and it terrified me. I had never, ever, ever been exposed to anything like King Diamond. And I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew that I wanted more. So I get through those albums. I see him the next day. I hand him those back. I said, dude, I need more. And so my journey started there. I got into Iced Earth. I got into Annihilator. I got into Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Gamma Ray, Halloween, Diamond Head. Diamond Head was my introduction to the new wave of British heavy metal. And so I've always had a very soft spot for 80s and 90s power metal and new wave of British heavy metal on top of your thrash stalwarts and stuff like that. So, I got to credit him for getting me into metal and at a time in my life where I really needed something. I was kind of the meek kid in school, got picked on a lot, really just put up with a lot and didn't have a ton of friends. And so, having someone that was willing to take me under their wing and kind of show me the ropes with music and such and treat me like an equal as opposed to just like the weird kid that didn't fit in, which I can't even qualify why I didn't fit in. I just didn't fit in. I moved around a lot and such. So I didn't have roots in a school where maybe I went to school K through 12. I went to kindergarten and then first through third and then fourth and fifth and then middle school. And so it was kind of all around the place. And so I really wasn't able to have great roots and lasting friendships. So I think that was part of why I was willing to take what he said at face value and give the music that he had given me a chance. And oh, am I glad I did, because, Painkiller came next and Slayer, Decade of Aggression. And what was the early stuff then? The Iron Maiden, Power Slave, Lightning to the Nations, Keeper 1 and 2. Let's see, what Gamma Ray would I probably somewhere out in space? Yeah, Power. No, it was Power Plant, because he had a compilation CD that he had made that had Razorblade Sigh on it. And that was the first Gamma Ray song I'd ever heard. And I fell in love with that. So, I started going to concerts and I lived heavy metal. Everything that I'd listened to before, I basically chunked out the window. I didn't want to listen to it anymore. I did not identify with it anymore. I'm a young, angsty teenager, and I'm hearing music that speaks to me and just shows me, hey, there's something out there for you. So fast forward a whole bunch of years, I'm no longer the meek pushover. I stand up for myself. I'm not a big tough guy or anything like that, but I take up for myself. I'm very confident and sure in who I am now. But the one constant there is metal has always been there for me. And so over the years, I've been extraordinarily privileged to be able to work with a number of bands, be it doing loading in and loading out at various shows at a club that used to exist here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota area called Station 4. I've done tour managing very limitedly. I was a tour manager for To Die For, Virgin Black, Epicurean, and Earn on a tour in 2007 around the United States. I did a small run of shows with Into Eternity back in 08 or 09 maybe. I've made lasting friendships with musicians over the years. I've been very privileged to meet most of my heroes, and they say never meet your heroes. That certainly rather stands true for a few people that I've met, but by I don't know what it is about metal, but I think that there's so many people in metal that are just genuine human beings that aren't putting on. I mean, yeah, they have their rock star aura, depending on what echelon they're in up the totem pole of fame. but they're down to earth. They are genuine people. Perfect example. Sebastian Bach. He could have been the biggest dick in the world to me when I met him, but I met him. Extraordinarily nice human being, gave me plenty of time to talk to me. It was not a paid meet and greet or anything like that. I was backstage at Rocklahoma in 2008. I was kind of the media liaison back there. So, but the job that I was doing did not involve him. It was for one of the three stages. The tri-label stage is the stage that I was doing work for. He was not performing on that stage. He was not beholden to me in the least. It was not going to do his career one bit of good or bad to be nice or a dick to me. But he took the time and was very nice to me. But over the years, I've been able to cultivate some really lasting friendships and working relationships with various bands. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm a fan. I don't claim to be anything in this business that I'm not. I don't do a ton of work in the business anymore outside of, I just got brought on as full-time crew at Prog Power USA, which I'm very stoked about. That's an opportunity I've been chasing for the better part of 20 years. Unfortunately, a friend of mine had to pass away for me to get that opportunity, and I'm very sad about that. But I will do the best that I possibly can in order to fill in for him and make him proud, because I know that he was very proud of the work that he did at the festival every year. But one of the opportunities that I've been given somewhat recently is I get to help Jarvis Leatherby of Iron Grip Management, who many of you may know as the lead singer and bass player of Night Demon. I've been given the opportunity by him to assist him and the guys in Satan of running their socials with them. And so there's been a large uptick in posting and such on the pages. A lot of that's been me. I can't take credit for all of it, but a lot of that has been me. And I'm trying to do right by the boys, because I truly believe that while Russ and I agree that Lightning to the Nations is probably the best new wave of British heavy metal album, Russ is far too humble, so I don't know that he agrees with me on this, but I certainly think that Satan is the best new wave of British heavy metal band. And anything that I can do to expose them to more people and to help keep that legacy alive for many, 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 many years to come. Because unfortunately, you know, this is 2005. They have been around, or 2025 rather. They have been around for 45 years. They are well over the hump of the halfway point in their careers. And I want to ensure that they are in the metal lexicon and people are still talking about them for another 45 years, if not more. So that's what brings me here to today with this show. This is something that I had discussed with Jarvis and I discussed with Russ and such. And I told him, I said, you know, this is not going to be a quote unquote official Satan property. I don't want it to be, nor do I think they want it to be. I want to be my own person, have my own thing. But I want to do this to honor them, as well as the greater movement of the new wave of British heavy metal. Because as we talked about with Tony last week, I have a love for all of this. And if I just do episodes about Satan over and over and over again, as fun as those will be, I will run out of stuff eventually. I've got a lot of stuff in the archives to share with you guys. I'm getting more every day. I'm seeking out stuff on my own. I've been given a bunch of stuff from the band that I'm going to be sharing with you guys over the next months and years, hopefully. Cool press clippings and newspaper articles and press releases. I've got an old contract of theirs, cool posters, behind the scene photos, both of current day stuff as well as some older stuff. And I also plan to have on a lot of great guests like Tony, and many others, some involved with the band, some not, some who may just be large fans of the band like Tony, or maybe a band member or two, current or former. A couple of people I've already gotten to agree to want to come on. And I want to get this thing going first before I start relying on that. I kind of want to get this going on my own merits first, and find some interest from what I have to say before I start trying to bring people in to get more views and such. I feel that that's a little not completely honest, and so I want to have you people enjoy listening to me and such before I start bringing on a ton of other people. Not to say that I won't have on guests here soon. I certainly plan on it, but I don't know that I want to bring out the big guns just yet. I want to earn them being on. So the purpose tonight was just to kind of give you guys a heads up as to who I am, why I'm doing this. I love this band. I truly do. I don't think that they've really put out a bad song, much less a bad album. I love all three eras of the band. I think Unity is an album that so many people have never heard. Pariah album from '97, I think, off the top of my head, that was released independently. And I mean, there's still a lot of people out there that don't know that Pariah, Blind Fury, and Satan are all the same entity, with the exception of the pre Satan involvement with Blind Fury that existed before Lou came in with the name, and they went to put out Out of Reach. But a lot of people don't realize that they're all three the same entity, and Satan is not one era in time. Satan is encompassing 45 years. They've had multiple singers. They've had several different sounds. Your Out of Reach was more. This is going to sound bad, and I certainly don't mean it that way because I love that record. But Out of Reach was your more the Blind Fury record was more of a commercial heavy metal record that was the flavor of the time in '85. And I don't blame them for putting that out. There's a reason they changed their name. They wanted to be a little more accessible. They wanted to have access to more tours and more fans and such, because Satan, they thought, was holding them back. And then Blind Fury, that experiment kind of came to an end, and they reformed Satan with Mike Jackson, and put out Suspended Sentence, and then decided again, maybe the name, and let's change it again. So they became Pariah and put out two fantastic albums that I have signed copies of on my wall here. Blaze of Obscurity. Well, I guess I don't have my copy of the Kindred up. Kindred's over there. So Kindred, and then Blaze of Obscurity. And then, fast forward to Wacken in 2004, they reform and they say, hey, you know what? Maybe this can be something. And they kind of go dormant again. They come back about 8 years later, and they're off to the races and have not looked back since. I think that the material that they're putting out now is every bit as good as the material that they were putting out back in the 80s, if not better. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. So I want to share a lot of things with you guys of the archives. Russ has sent me a whole bunch of stuff. I've been very privileged and honored to. I told Russ kind of what I wanted to do to run it by him to see what he thought, and he liked the idea. I kind of want to act as the archivist for the band. I want to take as much as I can, be it from them or just sourcing it on my own, and get it in one collection. And then the stuff that it's physically able for it to happen, I want to scan it all in high res digitally and share it with everyone. So I've been sharing a lot of that stuff on the Satan pages and whatnot, stuff like old press releases and articles and stuff like that. You can go back a couple of months. I posted a bunch of that there. I may share those again, just because there's some really, really cool stuff there. But a bunch of cool posters and stuff. Like, you can't really see it from here, but it's something that I shared last week when I had Tony on. I have a poster from the very first international show that they ever did. It was really the first show that they ever did outside of a bar, and it was February 26th, 1983, at the at the Dynamo in Eindhoven, Netherlands. The original Dynamo location is no longer there, but it is a piece of history. And the Dynamo still exists. It's just not the same building. They moved it across town a bit. Coincidentally, I'm actually going to be there in about 3 weeks. So while it's not the same building, I do want to stop by and get a shirt, because that place is legendary. Everybody and their brothers recorded a live album there at some point. So a very cool place for metal history. They've got a great music festival there every year, Dynamo Open Air. And it's just a really cool place. And I get off on stuff like that. I really, really love music history. As a friend of mine told me one time, that I've forgotten more about metal than Eddie Trunk has ever known. Sorry, Eddie, but it's true. And that's not a slight against Eddie. It's just Eddie's not a big metalhead. He had a show that 80s metal show, or that metal show, or whatever it was called. I don't remember now because it's been so long ago, on VH1 with Jim Florentine and oh, come on. Don Jameson. Ugh, brain fart. And you know, he's more of a hard rock guy, and Skid Row and Twisted Sister and stuff like that, which is certainly on the fringes of metal, but I'm more into metal. So I appreciated the compliment as it was given to me. Let me put it that way. But yeah, I apologize. My dog's barking in the background. It can't be helped. He's upstairs. I'm in my office. But yeah, so I'm going to share a bunch of stuff with you guys over the coming weeks, months, years, and such. But just wanted to check in tonight, kind of give a little bit of an update. Tonight is it's August 24th, 2025, and tonight is the first night of the Satan U.S. tour, or at least part two, the leg of the Songs in Crimson tour. And so they are tonight in Providence, Rhode Island, and then the tour dates there for the rest of the tour going through the 3rd of September. I will actually be seeing them on Friday night at Blades of Steel in Madison, Wisconsin, which I'm very stoked about. I saw them back in March in Chicago on their tour stop there, and it was a lot of fun. I drove out there for that, hung with the boys for a bit, saw a great show, and then came back the next day. It's pretty much what I'm doing this time. I'm going out to Blades of Steel early that afternoon, hang out with them, see Crypt Sermon, who I'm really, really stoked about seeing, and then see Satan, grab a hotel somewhere, head back, and then I'm actually heading down to Prague Power next week to work at the festival, and then I'm going to the Netherlands right after that to see Arion and stay in Eindhoven, where hopefully I can grab a Dynamo t-shirt and some records while I'm over there, because I love buying records in Europe. I've only been one other time, and it was a blast. So I'm hoping to be able to do that again this time. But I guess the only other thing I'm going to talk about tonight, and I want to keep these shorter. You know, that episode with Tony, it went 2+ hours. I got a lot of feedback on that's too long. I agree. I was not anticipating going that long. Unfortunately, he likes to talk, and I'm not going to stop him because his stories are fantastic. I like to talk. So, you know, we kept going, and it was a perpetual motion machine. We just couldn't stop. There were like 3 or 4 times where I was like, all right, we should start winding it down. And then we both get right onto something else again. So that's not the plan. I'd like to keep these down to about an hour, anywhere between maybe 30 minutes for a solo episode, an hour if I've got a guest. You know, there's going to be times that I go outside of that constraint, particularly if I've got a great guest on. There's a bunch of people lined up that I'm sorry, it's going to take me more than an hour to talk to them. But that's coming down the road. But for tonight, to kind of show you some of the cool things that I have in the collection here. I don't know how easy it's going to be able to see on this screen, but I have 3 of these. And what these are handwritten, basically a handwritten show log that Sean wrote from the Satan, Blind Fury, and Pariah days from 1982 to 1988. Russ found these in his garage and got Sean's permission to send them to me. And so I have them nicely framed and displayed on my wall in my office here. But I got these scanned in because I want to share these with the fans. But eventually, what I would like to do as part of my role is being kind of the volunteer archivist for the band, is I would like to nail down some of these dates a little better. So I've got these here, and they've got, you know, November 82. Well, Sean wasn't in the band in November of 82. He was in Thrust, who opened for Satan, and that was the night that he first played a show with Satan, even though he was not in the band. His first show with Satan was that aforementioned February 26, 1983, because Ian had left to go join Battle Axe, and so they needed a new drummer, and they got Sean. And coincidentally, they never actually asked Sean to join the band. They asked him if he would do some dates with them, and he just never left, which is the greatest decision of all time, in my opinion, because he's probably in my top 5 favorite drummers. He's such a solid. He's one of those drummers, you know, he's probably not the most technical drummer on the planet. You know, he's not Neil Peart. He's not Marco Miniman. He's not, you know, the most super technical player that you're ever going to hear. But what he plays and he plays a lot. I'm not trying to say that he's not a great drummer. He's a fantastic drummer. But what he plays with such precision and such feeling that I love it. There's one point in particular, and I told him this, and he kind of looked at me weird, but it was just something that I loved. There's a point in so there's two recordings of Key to Oblivion. There's the recording on the Dirt demo / Into the Future, and then there's a re-recording with Brian that was put out on the bonus LP in the Cool Magic box set. And the version with Mike, there's this point where there's like a small break, and it's like this huge crescendo, and then there's a break, and then they go right back into it again. And in that, he's counting on the hi-hat. And I don't know, but it just gets me. I'm just like, yeah, that's awesome, because they go right back into it, and it fits perfectly, as opposed to just being silence there. And it just kind of builds up that little bit of, oh, here it goes, and then it hits. It's just little stuff like that I hear, and I really love it. Van Williams from Nevermore is the same way. Not the most technical drummer on the planet, but certainly one of the best drummers on the planet in terms of feeling and groove and such. And I feel that way about Sean. So I'm stoked that Sean has been there, pretty much their exclusive drummer, with the exception of he did not play on Unity. Ian actually had come back for that because Sean was unavailable. He was living in the Bay Area at that time, I believe, or that may have been right around his accident. One of the two, I can't recall. And then the Vakken show, I believe, you're gonna have to bear with me here for just 1 second, because I do not like giving out wrong information. I believe that was Phil from Blitzkrieg playing that show, because again, Sean was for some reason or another unavailable to do that one show in 2004. And of course, Metal Archives, this is going to be one of those times where it takes forever to load. Okay, it is loaded, and I'm checking now. Live musician. Yeah, Phil Brewis, 2004. So I was right on that. So yeah, Sean's been their drummer on everything else, from Court in the Act up through the newest album, with the exception of Unity. And I hope it stays that way until the band eventually calls it a day, because I think the loss of Sean would be insurmountable, in my opinion. Just I think he means that much to the sound, just as everyone else does. But anyway, so back to these notes. So Sean took a detailed accounting, rather, of all of the shows they played from the November of 82 until November or December of 88. November the 13th, 1988 would have been the last show on here, because that was the I don't know how to say in Dutch, but the quote unquote Steel Trap show, Steile Trap in Deventer. That was the last night of the Running Wild tour that they were on, but they headlined this night. Running Wild was done with the tour the night before. So they headlined that show, and that was the last night that they did as Satan. And then, let's see, let me look to make sure I'm right on that. Yes. Okay. So this says Pariah, but they were actually never Pariah under any of these dates. But anyway, so what I would like to do is hopefully with you guys' help, because I know there's a lot of hardcore Satan fans out there that are great with dates and such. I've talked to a couple of them in the Netherlands that I'm actually looking forward to meeting in person when I'm over there next month, around the Eindhoven area. One of which was at the Dynamo show for the poster that I have, and the other one was at the Steel Trap show, of which I also have that poster on my wall. But I'd like to talk to both of them to kind of get a bookend for the, at least, Satan Mach 1, 2, 3, I consider to be, I guess, Satan Mach 1, 2, 3, 4, if you want to count Ian, Brian, Lou, Mike, in that order, from the 80s, kind of the bookends to when Ian Swifty was still in the band to when Mike was there, and then they were done and went to Pariah again, rather. But what I'd like to do is I think some of these months are wrong. They're not far off, but I would like to actually try to nail down days on as many of these as I can, and get them loaded into like an Excel spreadsheet or something to complement the handwritten ones that I've got. Because I would also like to try to figure out if all these dates actually happened, or if some of them were put down and then they didn't happen for some reason or another. Maybe they were trying to fill a tour and they assumed they would play a show in like Middleburg, Holland, but didn't, or Lutenberg, or something another like that. I don't know if all these shows happened, but I don't believe that there are any shows that happened that are not on this. So this is at least an over accounting of, if not an under accounting of, everything that happened. And so I would like to try to try to delve into this and kind of figure out dates and such. I mean, so the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one down at the Beer Keller in Newcastle, England, Girls' School in Satan, May of '83. That actually was not May, that was June. I know this because I also have a poster for that gig, and that was Satan opening for Girls' School. And Satan, that was the last show that they performed with Swifty before he left the band. Brian came in right after that. And apparently, according to, who was it? Sean Young, who is Gary from Avengers' brother. Sean told me that Brian was actually in the audience that night. So, as I believe at least Sean was, and maybe Gary was as well. I would like to try to have both of them on at some point too, either together or apart. Gary and Sean are a wealth of knowledge from back in the day. I mean, Gary being the drummer and founding member of Avenger. I'd like to try to have Swifty on, but he's not really on the internet. He has no social media or anything like that. I've corresponded with him a little bit through Gary, which I'm very thankful for, and I've been able to tell him how much I appreciate his work and such with the band, and been able to get some stuff signed by him, both Avenger items as well as early Satan stuff. But Sean is just a wealth of information, and he sells a lot of music memorabilia and such, and has a business doing that. That's how he makes his living. And so he's had some really cool relics, and that's actually who I got that Girls' School in Satan poster from, was him. And he's done me a solid on helping me get some other things too. So I'd really like to have him on at some point, because he was there. He was coming up during that time in the UK, at the forefront of the new wave of British heavy metal. And I really love hearing stories like that, because I wasn't even born yet. Unfortunately, I wasn't born until '84, and I didn't get into the movement until '99 or 2000. So I missed out on all of that. I was born in the wrong decade. But yeah, I know for a fact that show was June. I want to say it was June 3rd, if I remember correctly. Actually, I think I have picture of it. If I can get it loaded up into here real quick, I will just show it off rather than talk about it, because it's a pretty cool little poster, and it's the only one I've ever seen. Yeah, here it is, and it's loading now. Okay, yeah, at Dingwalls, and Beer Keller and Dingwalls is the same place, just a different name. So it was Thursday, June 2nd. So it wasn't May of '83; it was June. But yeah, Girls' School and Satan. God, I love that old school Satan logo. That's why it's incorporated into the art for the show. I had my buddy. I said, I gave him a very rudimentary description of what I was looking for, and just to shout out Sean Slade. He's a local comic book artist and former professional wrestler, and just a great dude and a great artist. And I said, buddy, I need some great work from you, and because he's done some cool work for me before, and he absolutely knocked it out of the park with what I was asking for. And in fact, just because I'm so proud of it, I will throw it up on the screen now, as opposed to it being a flash in the video. Let's see. Let me find a good one for it. Here we go. He really knocked it out of the park, and I'm always going to go for someone like this. One thing that I said is I don't want AI music and I don't want AI art. Now that said, just to give a little bit of an aside, I did have AI, specifically Grok Imagine, animate some of the original art. So at the very beginning of it, when the logo barrister is laughing and such, and then the art from the logos themselves are kind of pulsating and such. I did have that done through AI just because I thought it would look cool to have them animated. But all of the art itself was done by my man Sean. And so, yeah, as you can see, I love that old Satan logo, which is why I incorporated it in the Cast in the Act logo and such. The barrister or judge, however you want to describe him, uh, I did not know what was coming. I said, hey, I want the podcast, or I guess it's not a podcast, it's a video cast. I want the show art to look, not a direct copy of one of their album covers, but just kind of a mishmash of everything. I wanted to have that same theme, that same motif, that same feeling. And yeah, I think he knocked it out of the park. It's not quite prevalent right now just because I haven't shaved my sides or back in a little bit, but usually I have a mohawk. And then the sunglasses and the cigar. I love to smoke a cigar. Along with the barrister's wig and such. I thought he knocked it out of the park, and the HBFL on the microphone there. So I was very, 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 very happy with how this turned out, and I had to wait a few weeks for it, but man, it was more than worth the wait in my opinion. While I'm shouting out people, the theme music for it is done by my buddy Christian Wentz. He's out of the Bay Area as well, and he's done work with John Oliva in the past, or I'm sorry, not John Oliva. He may have done something for John Oliva, but Zach Stevens from Sabotage, he was in Circle to Circle for a bit with Zach, and he's in close with the TSO guys, and he's working on some other projects right now. He just joined a band with Mike LaPond from Symphony X, and apparently they're going to be going on tour fairly soon. Or I guess he didn't join a band; he started a band. They're going to be going on tour fairly soon in India and maybe a couple of other places. I'm not entirely sure what they've got coming up, as he hasn't fully announced everything yet. I'm not sure what I can say. But just a fantastic guitar player and a wizard with computers and networking and such. He owns a computer security company and does a lot of work in AI and such. Regarding various applications for businesses and stuff like that. Just a hugely intelligent guy who happens to be a beast on the guitar. And again, I had to wait a little bit for the music because I think he said that it took him a week or a week and a half to nail that solo. But he finally nailed it and got everything mixed up and sent over to me, and I will cherish it. I love it, and I told him that it was too good for him not to use for himself. So look out for that song to potentially be on a future release of his. He also had a great band back in the day that is now defunct, unfortunately, as his main writing partner, Mark Patterson, died. But the band was called Future's End, and it was with Steve DiGiorgio and John Allen from Sadis, and just a great kind of progressive metal band. It was very, very good. Fred, who was in 0 Hour for a bit, if I remember correctly, was the singer on that, and just a great band. They only ever had one album called Memoirs of a Broken Man. Sorry, all this is coming off the top of my head. That album came out like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. But just a fantastic record and a fantastic dude, and I'm very, very thankful to have had him do the music for this. But yeah, so back to the handwritten notes here. So everything here is from November 82 up through looks like May of 85 there. And then your next page is June of 85. Oh, well, actually, let's go back to the first one real quick. So other things that I want to clear up. He's got little notes on here, which is all fine and good. But I need to make sure that everything's good to go in regards to what is presented as factual and what is presented as conjecture. So it says here, Court in the Act, August of 85. It has been widely reported online for years now that Court in the Act came out in August of 85. That is not the case. It was recorded in August of 85. It actually came out the week of them being in the Netherlands on their November tour in 83. So around the time of Gouda, Middelburg, Lutenberg, Eindhoven, somewhere in that week, which if you've heard Live in the Act, the live album that they did, is there's also a bootleg called Blitzkrieg in Holland, which is not an official Satan release. But both of those shows were also recorded that week. So they came out, or they were recorded the week that Court in the Act came out. But yeah, so Court in the Act did not get recorded or it got recorded in August. It did not get released in August. I've had Russ confirm that to me. And I've tried to do my best to keep that going too, because most everywhere online says that it came out in August, and that's simply not the case. But down here, I know you guys can't see where my cursor is, but it says Douglas Head, Douglas, Isle of Man, 10 nights. Did they go there to record Out of Reach? Was Out of Reach recorded around that time? I don't know, to be honest. So I got to do some digging on that and talk to Sean about that and just kind of get some ideas to what was going on there. It says 10 nights, but it also says June of 84, and it's got November and September switch there. So if I had to guess, I'm going to guess that there was some sort of a festival or a series of shows on the Isle of Man that they played in June of 84, and then they either recorded or released Out of Reach under the name Blind Fury in September of 84, and then maybe it was released in November. I'm not entirely sure. And then they took that album cycle tour on the road and hit Holland for a couple of dates, as well as into England and such. And then the last page here being, well, here, hold on. I don't think that's correct. Yeah, okay. So I'm sorry, that was the first page. Second page here, you've got the let's see if I can zoom this in where I can see it. Norwich, England, No People at All, November 85. And then they played a festival in December 85 in near Brussels, Belgium, with Pariah supporting. I'd like to try to figure out what festival that was and such. So I've got some work to do in looking into stuff. Into the Future, August of 86. That was when the Dirt demo was recorded. It did not come out as Into the Future until a couple of months later, I don't believe. But the Dirt demo was recorded on one day in August of 86, and I believe it was the August 21st or 22nd. I can't recall. It was this week. I know that because I posted about it. But just little notes in there about, suspended sentence, March of 87. And then the Running Wild plus Satan tour, October, November of 87. And then over to the last page, which is them finishing up that Running Wild tour with them doing the headlining set with a band called Exploder from the Netherlands, supporting them on that Steel Trap show on Friday the 13th of November of 87. So that was the last show performed as Satan before they changed their name over to Pariah until 2004. And then when they came back again, ultimately, 8-9 years later. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this. I just wanted to do an introduction episode, thank a few people, Sean, Christian, some people that have helped me kind of put some stuff together and whatnot. Everybody's in the credits of the people that I truly want to thank for this show, and I'm sure I'll add more to it later as I bring on more people and utilize more resources in order to try and get as much of the history together in one collection under one roof as I possibly can. And then I went out and bought a physical scanner, high-res scanner, to be able to res all this, scan all this stuff in high res so that I can share it with everyone, because I'm certainly not collecting this stuff to hoard it all. By no means am I trying to do that. I've been able to collect pretty much everything I want to collect for my own personal collection, with the exception of the Guardian demo. That's probably going to be a running joke for the entirety of the rest of this podcast, or this show rather, until I get a copy of it in my hands. I am looking for a copy of the Guardian demo. It is the only thing I'm missing. I have the Into the Fire demo tape. I have the Dirt demo tape. I have every 7-inch, every 12-inch, every full LP, every full EP. I have everything. I've got clippings, I've got posters, I've got everything, and all of it's signed. The only signatures I do not have on anything are Ian McCormick and Trev Robinson, of which I'm still working on that. Russ has tried to put me in contact with both of them, so I will be trying to get their signatures at the very least on the Early Rituals record. You know, if I don't have a Guardian demo to put them on, oh well. I mean, I can get Ian McCormick, not Swifty. I can get Ian McCormick on a couple of things that he was on, but the Dirt demo, or the Dirt demo, the Guardian demo, I need it. They're out there. I know they are. I have a lot of really great trade fodder. We can make a deal. I assure you. Just let me try. But I guess that's all I have for tonight. We're already at 45 minutes. So I'm going to let this one go. Please, you know, if you like what you hear, tune in, hit subscribe. I'd really, really appreciate it. As I've got here in the lower banner, all the places you can find us. I really, really, really appreciate the support I've gotten so far, and I really hope to cultivate more of it. This is a lot of fun for me to do. I was working on launching this for a few months, and I finally got all my ducks in a row to be able to do it. And am I 100% pleased with how the first episode went? No, it went a little long. I'm still trying to work out some stuff in terms of the production of it and how I want to do everything. But I'm very pleased with the fact that it's going. And I'm only going to make it better from here on out. So if you'll stick around with me and let me try, I promise to make you happy, and I promise to entertain you the best that I possibly can. Shoot me a message if you got any questions or anything like that. If you got any ideas, you can find Cast in the Act all together on Instagram, Cast in the Act on Facebook. YouTube is Cast in the Act HBFL all together. My personal Instagram is Brent for Leather. It was a name given to me back when I did radio because I'm a massive Judas Priest fan. So you can find me on any of those avenues, or shoot me an email, castintheact@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to hear out any suggestions anyone has. Leave me a comment on the video or whatever on YouTube. I read those, and I'm more than happy to listen to any ideas, any suggestions, or if you have something that I need to know about the show, I'm happy to take that too. So until next time, I really greatly appreciate you everyone turning in, and I will try to have a recap show of the Blades of Steel Festival. I'm only going to be able to go for the one night. It's just timing reasons. Is I can only do the Friday when Satan's playing, but I'm going to try to do a recap of that sometime next weekend after I'm back, because I won't be able to record again for a few weeks since I'm going to be out of the country or working at Prog Power. So I want to do a quick recap and just talk about the show and the set and hanging out with the guys and such. But so until then, we will see you hopefully next week. Thanks.